Hi, everybody. This week we have quite a surprise out of our normal way we do things. We've invited some wonderful guests to come join us on our channel. We have Warren and Julie from Warren Travel with us. Warren and Julie. What is the name of your group?
It's Travel with Us by Warren and Julie. However, you can just look up Warren Julie Travel. We're going to pop up.
Awesome. Thank you.
Warren and Julie.
These are great YouTubers, and they have a wonderful website, and they're also on social. We love them. We've been following them for years. And the reason why we follow them is they're fascinating. We discovered that they are living in Europe, living and traveling in Europe as American citizens without a visa and figuring out how to do the whole Schengen shuffle and travel with their dogs and have a car and own a home. And we're like, how do you do this? And we thought you guys might want to know that too. So we have invited them along this week for a chat. So hi, Warren and Julie. How are you guys?
Hi, Chris and Steve. Well, first off, good evening to you. And it's morning here in Sicily. And you guys are over in Australia. And just for the folks at home, it would be 2:42 in the morning if you're Eastern US, depending on where you're watching from. So it's a small world.
Yeah, and it gets smaller and smaller with technology. So thank heavens for that.
Yes. So we do not have a residency anywhere, and we've been running around Europe for 3 years. We've been traveling full time for 4 years. Started off in Ecuador, did a continent hop with our dogs, and we've been running around Europe since January of 2021.
That's correct.
And
so you even were in Europe in kind of towards the mid to end of COVID. You were dealing with COVID stuff in the first quarter of 2021.
Yeah, we actually were doing a channel through COVID. Started off our journey at the very start of COVID in Ecuador, and it was an interesting time to start the channel and try to show people what it's like to live in different countries and sharing experiences and expenses, but the process for Europe is it's complicated, but not complicated, because to us it's second nature now.
Yeah,
right.
And we've done a lot of different videos about different segments of this as well, about how you have a car and why we have a home in, or how you have a car in Europe, why we have our home in Montenegro, a small country on the Adriatic, and regarding the Schengen. And the Schengen, for those of you not familiar with it, is a group of 29 countries in Europe. And it's most of the countries Americans think about when they think of Europe. But it goes all the way to Poland, down to Croatia, through Hungary, Slovakia, and over to the western part with the majority of Europe, but not UK and not Ireland. And also on the other side of the continent, you have Serbia's not Schengen, Montenegro, Bosnia, Albania, and Turkey. Ukraine is also not there, or Moldova, but Ukraine's in a tough situation right now. Macedonia. But you have to look at the 29 countries of the Schengen as though it's one country. As an American, when you go into the continent, into the Schengen, you have 90 days every 180 days that you can spend within those 29 countries. And then you have to get out unless you have some sort of residency or special permission to stay longer within that zone. And
so let me stop you for just a second, Warren. So I think I love my sister. She's fabulous. She lives in the US, and she's not the greatest with geography. So like when she thinks of Europe, she thinks of Spain, France, Italy. She may have a concept of the EU. I mean, my sister's very smart. She just doesn't travel a lot, right? So she probably thinks of the EU. And then if I said Schengen to her, she'd be like, what country is that? Is that next to Switzerland or is it next to Sweden? Or like, so so that's kind of a different concept for a lot of people, I think. And then, I think when people think of it, they may have a concept of the EU and they think that's Schengen and Schengen's the EU. And there's some overlap there, right? But there's a few outliers. So some countries are in the EU that aren't in Schengen, and some are in Schengen that aren't in the EU. But I mean, I'll put a map up here of what the Schengen is. I think you're right. Like, you got to think of it of all these 29 countries as one big country. Like, what do you think the size of Schengen is, like in comparison to the US or Canada or Australia? Do you have any idea?
Well, it's similar to size as the US, as well as what the population was. I mean, you've got some decent sized countries that aren't part of it, but for the most part, the majority of the continent is Schengen. And so
Right.
when you look at all these countries combined in population, America's, the US is like 330, 340 million. You probably have roughly 300 plus to 350 million Europeans within the Schengen.
And this year they added 2 more, which made it even harder.
Yeah, good,
for them.
good point. You might be pushing 400 million now with Romania and Bulgaria being added in this year. So, maybe population wise, they may be a little bit larger.
What I think is interesting is that most we're talking about Americans or Canadians that are traveling to Europe. They're not traveling as full-time travelers, right? They're going on vacation. They're going for 3 weeks or something, and so they're not thinking about visa issues or Schengen issues. They're not thinking about, well, I'm going to be there for 90 days and then I have to leave. So I think this is a unique situation for people like us who are traveling full time and who love Europe and want to stay in Europe, all the time. So I think that's really unique for you in that you figured out how to do that. And we just leave. We hop on a boat and we go to Australia.
So you had mentioned 90 days and 180 days. Why don't you go ahead and explain? Because I think people don't understand the sliding 90 days and so on. Can you explain that?
Yeah, sure. So a lot of our viewers are retirees who want to live in Europe or people that want to live in Europe and trying to figure out how they can do it and to shuffle from place to place. So when you're looking at 90 days every 180 days, it's a rolling calendar. So if you did 20 days now, you would still have 70 more days to do within the 180 days. And as that calendar slides further into the future, you can drop those 20 days off and go on. For us, we typically will do, to keep it clean and easy on the calculations, we'll go in and dive into the Schengen and leave before our 90 days is finished and head on out.
Especially since your entrance day and your exit day count.
Yeah, as the same country. So if you were to cross from Croatia into Montenegro gives you 90 days, and you did up to your 90th day in Schengen, you have to find one more day to go spend somewhere else. So you go spend it in Croatia, full day out somewhere, Croatia or Albania, or you go to Serbia, before you can exit or enter back into the Schengen.
Right. I think what people may not understand is, so like if you're in South America and you go from Bolivia to Colombia, you go through immigration, you have to do your passport, you might need visas and stamps and so on. But in Schengen, once you're in this big area, you don't have to do any passport control as you're going across the borders.
Right. So it's like being in the United States in the standpoint of, if you want to drive from Poland to Portugal, you're not going to have any border checkpoints along the way. Once you enter into that zone, it's treated like one country, similar to driving from Maine to California. You're not going to have anybody stopping you between state borders and saying, show me your passport. That's how the Schengen is set up. It's borderless.
Occasionally you'll have a soft border. I mean, Austria and Slovenia, a couple of times we would have a very soft border where it would make like a stop and they would decide to flag you on or stop you.
Yeah, they'll just wave you through, but that's the exception. It's not very normal. I mean, we went through the Spain-Portugal border, had a picnic on a river, and we didn't even know we just crossed the border at that river, and we had this cool little picnic up in the mountains, and there was nothing special about it. We just drove across this little stream with this little road, and as we're sitting up there going, we should be close to Spain by now, and come to find out that was the border. So it was interesting.
So it's fun travel because you can do just like you do in the United States.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's stressful because you only have that clock and you better get out, because if you do not, you can be banned for 5 years or more. I mean, it can
be banned from Europe for 5 years. Not me.
Not me.
All right. So how do you guys do this? I mean, you're 90 days, you go cruising around Europe or Spain and France and Latvia, and then where do you go? And then how do you come back? And like, I mean, you've been doing this now for a couple of years with your dogs even, which is amazing. How do you pull this off? I mean, you must have some magic truth drug or something that you tell the immigration folks, you don't have to look at my passport. I know how to count. Or do you really have some sort of plan on how you do it?
No, our passports have a lot of stamps, but we spend a lot of time in other countries. But we love Turkey, we love Serbia. Actually, Novi Sad, Serbia is really worth spending some time in. But we own our home in Montenegro, when we bought one there in 2016. Beautiful country on the Adriatic, and we just sold our first home, bought a new home. But part of the reason with Montenegro is it's not Schengen, and so if you're going to do the Schengen shuffle and you want to buy a property in Europe, it's best to think about getting something in a country that is not Schengen. Because say you buy a home in Italy, where we are currently, and you say, oh, okay, I'm going to go over here. Unless Italy is your only Schengen country you want to do, you spend your 90 days here, you have nothing left to go explore France or Germany or anything else. You have to then go outside the Schengen. And if you want to explore the rest of Europe, then having a home like we have in Montenegro, you can go do 90 days in Montenegro and go visit a neighbor country and then head back into the Schengen for 90 days. And, at this point, we are almost at the point to where we actually like our little country, Montenegro, so much that we're going to probably just look at it as we do 90 days in Montenegro, 90 days elsewhere, and then we don't have to worry about the Schengen shuffle as much. But the Schengen shuffle is, it's easy enough to get around. But if you wanted to live in Italy or Germany full time, you then just need to know you need to leave if you don't have residency. You can't just sit there and squat and expect that you're gonna not have any repercussions. You're basically an illegal in the country.
So since, for example, I love cool weather, so I want to head north for the summer. So we'll spend time in Montenegro, April, May, and June. We leave like this year, July 3rd. We're going to go up. We're going to enjoy Norway, Sweden, Denmark, with the UK, Germany, and we're going to come back within those 88 to 90 days. We're coming back through.
Last summer we did Gdynia on the Baltic Sea.
Exactly, and then we'll head in as soon as we are through Croatia. We're into Montenegro again, but actually we want to be able to spend time in Montenegro through Christmas. So what we're going to actually have to do is divert into Serbia, because again, they're non-Schengen. So we'll go into Serbia. We'll spend an extra probably 15 days there in Zlatibor, which is a beautiful place up in the mountains. And then we'll come back into Montenegro. So now we have done our 90. We've taken time in the UK. So we also have time for the UK. And then we're coming back in through Serbia, spending that time, making Montenegro now 90, letting us stay through Christmas. So it's complicated, but it's not.
And we do most
just to clarify, do you have any special residency permit for Montenegro?
Not at this point. We do not.
No. We could get it if we wanted to, but if we did a residency by home ownership, which is something we can do, you have to spend at least 10 months a year there. It's really supposed to be 11 months. You get an extra month if you have a reason to leave. So they want you to spend time there, or you can open a corporation, which we're considering doing, which gives you more freedom to travel as corporate owners. You're not restricted to a certain timeline, but you have a monthly amount of tax you have to pay yourself for your salary. So, we may look at actually doing that. Currently, well, this kind of is a good lead in. We have a nil corporation, makes no money out of Bulgaria that we have, and we have our car in the name of our corporation. And as officers of our corporation, we drive our corporate car around Europe and all over the place, and we have a copy of our corporate documents. So if anybody asks anything, we show them that, this is our company, this is our company car, and this is how we drive around. So anybody has questions on that, you can email us at warrenjulietravel@gmail.com, and we'll give you some different insights. And there's actually 3 different options right now that we know of if you wanted to have a car in Europe and how to do it. But we use our Bulgarian system, which Julie worked hard to discover.
So speaking of English, I think a lot of our friends who haven't traveled a lot, they're really worried about coming to Europe, spending time, especially in the eastern side of Western Europe. So the Croatia and Serbia and the countries that you just mentioned, Hungary and so on, they're really concerned about English, and they think they're not going to be able to communicate, and they're really worried about that. What have you discovered as you've traveled all around the EU and the Schengen district with language?
English.
I can tell you there have been some difficulties, especially in the Cyrillic language. I'm the one that does the grocery shopping when we first get to a country most of the time. And Bulgaria, I had my hair, I was pulling it out practically. But you get used to it. You learn a few little things here and there as you're there, if you're going to be a long-term person. But I also use Google Translate like crazy.
And there's a camera feature.
And there's a camera feature. And if I didn't have Google Translate, I would really struggle. Montenegro, most of your tourist areas have a lot of English speakers.
English menus.
Yes, English menus. Serbia has so many English speakers because of the fact that it's mandatory in their school system.
It's really a surprise to see how many English speakers are in Serbia. If they're younger than, say, 35 or 40, they're speaking English.
Right.
They know English.
Right. Croatia, you have so many tourism areas. We had no problems with English there. Turkey, surprisingly, Istanbul, we struggled more than we expected. And we've been there now 3 times. But definitely there are fewer people speaking English outside of probably Taksim Square.
Yeah, or if you go down to Antalya, which is a great area along the coast, especially for winter, a lot of the restaurants there have English menus, but English is spoken by a lot of the foreigners in the expat communities throughout these countries because it's a bridge language. So you can have people from the Philippines, China, India, different parts of Africa that are all part of the expat community, and Europe, and English is the most predominant language in the world. So this is a bridge for a lot of the expat community. So if your English is like me, if English is like your primary only language, I speak very little of other languages, you're blessed to be speaking English because this is the easiest language in the world to get by on.
Absolutely. If you only knew French and you went to some of these countries, you would really struggle much more.
Yeah. We use Google Lens, like you said, the camera feature of the Translate. And when we first got here to Australia, we went to a Christmas sing-along and they were singing Santa Claus is Coming to Town. And the first verse, of course, is the lyrics we all know. But then the second verse is all these Australian slang terms about utes and holdens. And we had no idea what these terms are. And Lens didn't work on Australian slang. So we had to ask the guy next door what all the lyrics were. But we've used it. We are very blessed and very fortunate that we're first speakers of English language, because I would hate to have to learn it and try to figure out how to navigate the world in my second or third language. That would be quite a challenge. So we're very blessed for that. Well, okay. You guys have an amazing story. And on your YouTube channel, you've got all kinds of how to do your car, how to travel with pets, how to do the Schengen Shuffle, how to get a house, all these things. So please, if you are wonderful followers of ours, we would also love you to follow Warren and Julie at their Travel With Us channel. They also have a great website and they're very friendly on social as well. Where else can we find you? How else do we want to know about you guys?
Well, Facebook, of course, is a great way to find us. We have an Instagram. I don't play around with Instagram too much. Maybe I'm just too old to really have figured out how to master it. I don't know. We put some little odds and ends up there just to have a presence. But mostly it's a Facebook group and our YouTube channel and email. We especially like if you're looking for medical insurance, that's something I do from my previous life. And so if you're looking for international medical insurance, I've got different options for you. So you can email us also at warrenjulietravel@gmail.com, and we'll send you over some information on international medical insurance. But if you are looking to slow travel and want to know about our experiences, expenses, or how to do different things, especially in Europe, we've got a lot of information, a lot of videos on it.
Yes. Yes, we do. But not nearly as much travel fast like you guys. I mean, yours is impressive. That map was incredible.
Yeah, you guys been around the world twice, I think, last year, or at least once. I don't know.
Yeah, we went around the world once last year. We both have been around the world twice, but last year was our second time completely around the world. So anyway, that's another story for another day. But I want to thank you guys very much for joining us today. We love the fact that you're teaching us how to do the Schengen Shuffle without having to go through a lot of visa gyrations. And we're going to be in Europe this summer, and we've got a lot of Europe time actually coming up in the next 24 months. So we'll definitely be practicing some of that Schengen shuffle. So we really appreciate your time today, and maybe we'll see you in Poland this summer. Who knows?
Yeah. Well, we'll see. Or if you come through Montenegro at the right time, just keep track. We'll see if we cross paths.
Absolutely.
All right. Thanks, you guys. We'll talk to you soon.